on Q2 on the prowl.
It was shocking because I thought it was a dog. I thought, that's not a dog, that's a bear.
A black bear spotted roaming the south side, attracting residents. And in with the old, out with the new, President Trump aims to change the names for 2 pro sports teams. What power, though, does he have? We'll have the answer. The MTN 4:30 news starts right now. Good evening. Thanks for joining us on this Monday. I'm Andrea Lutz. A wild morning on the south side. Residents waking up to an unlikely visitor, a black bear. The animal wandered through the neighborhood, startling people out and about before police eventually pushed it back outside of city limits. As Don Hudson shows us, for one longtime resident, it was a once-in-a-lifetime sight.
He was not looking like he was dangerous at all.
Barb Freer saw the bear while out on her morning walk near King Avenue East and Jackson Street.
He was coming up the street over here and on Kings Green and turned and came down in front of my house, but I was behind him. He wasn't worried about me.
While she didn't stop to take a photo, about 10 blocks north, a KTVQ viewer was able to capture the bear on camera, saying the bear came out of a grassy area behind her apartment on Bunting Street. A short time later, the bear had made its way 6 blocks west to Optimus Park.
Shocking because I thought it was a dog. I thought, that's not a dog, that's a bear.
Just before 1, Billings police said they used flashbangs to push the bear south across the interstate and outside of city limits. While they hope it doesn't come back, Barb will be keeping an eye out.
Well, I'm going to watch for him. I think he's a cute little guy.
In Billings, Don Hudson, MTN News.
A severe thunderstorm watch means the conditions are right for severe storms with tonight heavy rain, gusty winds, hail, all possible across areas of eastern Montana. There's Billings off towards the east. We're already seeing some shower and thunderstorm activity developing. This big trough of low pressure is pulling up the southwesterly flow and creating the environment for plenty of thunder and lightning. We're seeing some of those stronger storms here across the region starting to push through. A few storms right around the Billings area, but if we zoom down, now here's Billings over here, but you can see in the Bighorn County, Powder River County, some of the storms with the potential right now for ping-pong-sized hail and 60-mile-per-hour wind gusts. Got a lot of weather to talk about. The complete forecast coming up in just a few minutes.
A Billings woman is dead after a weekend motorcycle crash near Roberts. The Montana Highway Patrol says the woman was on her motorcycle, struck by a car Sunday afternoon. The driver of a Toyota 4Runner hit a deer and then collided head-on with the Harley Davidson. The 51-year-old woman was thrown from the motorcycle and died on scene. Her name has not been released, and the driver of the Toyota, a 68-year-old Billings woman, was taken to the hospital, but not with serious injuries. 6 months into his second term, a new CBS News poll finds President Trump's approval ratings sliding as public support for his deportation and tariff policies appear to be going down. The poll comes as the president's August 1st trade deal deadline approaches. Erica Brown is at the White House with more on that, plus the latest on the Trump administration's fight with Harvard.
Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth met with the president of the Philippines at the Pentagon Monday ahead of expected trade talks with President Trump this week.
We're proud to support our mutual economic vitality.
The visit comes with President Trump's August 1st trade deal deadline approaching. New CBS News polling shows Americans want more focus on lowering prices rather than tariffs, with 60% opposing new taxes on imported goods. But the Trump administration is standing firm.
This is going to pay off our deficit. This is going to make America stronger. We are finally protecting America.
CBS News polling also shows President Trump's overall approval rating down more than 10 points since February. But the president still enjoys strong support from his base 6 months into his second term. In the poll, there is growing disapproval of the president's deportation program, with more Americans saying the Trump administration is not prioritizing dangerous criminals. As a federal court hearing for Harvard University's challenge to the administration freezing more than $2 billion in grants and contracts got underway, a group of alumni, students, and faculty rallied outside the court in Boston.
We're putting our research and the research of the next generations, not only here at Harvard, but across the country, at risk.
In a social media post Monday afternoon, the president called Harvard anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, and anti-America, and said the government will stop the practice of giving billions to the university. Erica Brown, CBS News, the White House.
President Trump says he wants the Cleveland Guardians and the Washington Commanders to return to their original names, a move Montana Senator Steve Daines has also pushed for. As we've reported, the Redskins logo was inspired by Blackie Weitzel in 1971, modeled after the Blackfeet tribal leaders here in Montana. How much influence does a president really have over professional sports teams? Our Joe St. George explains.
President Donald Trump has taken on world leaders, cities, Democrats, and Republicans over the years. And for the moment, it appears he's turning his attention to the world of professional sports, criticizing recent name changes in professional baseball and the NFL. The president over the weekend taking time to criticize again the names of the Cleveland Guardians and Washington Commanders. The Guardians and the Commanders started going by their new names in 2022 after years of public pressure to drop their previous controversial mascots. However, the president prefers the old names. Writing on Truth Social, the Washington Whatever should immediately change their name back to the Washington Redskins football team. There is a big clamoring for this. Likewise, the Cleveland Indians, one of the 6 original baseball teams with a storied past, are great Indian people, and massive numbers want this to happen. Their heritage and prestige is systematically being taken away from them, the president wrote. Times are different now than they were 3 or 4 years ago. The president has mentioned his frustration frequently in speeches over the years. But his leverage over Major League Baseball and the NFL is not quite the same as the leverage he has over some Republicans in Congress. The president did write a follow-up post, though. My statement on the Washington Redskins has totally blown up, but only in a very positive way. I may put a restriction on them that if they don't change their name back to the original Washington Redskins and get rid of the ridiculous moniker Washington Commanders, I won't make a deal for them to build a stadium in Washington. Cleveland should do the same with the Cleveland Indians. The owner of the Cleveland baseball team, Matt Dolan, who is very political, has lost 3 elections in a row because of that ridiculous name change. So what happens next? Is this just a Monday, one-day story, or does the president deputize senior advisors to take on this issue more concretely? The president likely has more leverage on the Washington Commanders, given the fact that they're trying to build a stadium in the District of Columbia. Because the District of Columbia is not a state, President Trump has more sway on issues impacting D.C. than, let's say, your typical American city. Joe St. George, Scripps News Group, Washington.
Montana regulators have released more details on their plans to implement work requirements and charge premiums for people on Medicaid expansion. It includes tweaks to the state's proposal in line with what Congress just approved in the federal One Big Beautiful Bill. MTN's Jonathan Anbarian breaks down the proposed changes.
Earlier this month, leaders with the Montana Department of Public Health and Human Services told lawmakers they were ready to seek federal approval to start implementing community engagement requirements and cost sharing for people on Montana's Medicaid expansion program. Now they've released details about what they're going to ask the federal government to approve. On Friday, the Gianforte administration officially published their request for a 5-year waiver to implement part of the state's Medicaid expansion law that have never gone into effect. In the document, state leaders said the changes would, quote, ensure that public resources are targeted to those most in need and encourage greater independence and self-sufficiency. If the waiver application is approved, people wanting to get onto Medicaid expansion will have to be working, in school, in workforce training, or another type of approved community engagement for at least 80 hours a month, 1 month before they apply. The waiver would also require Medicaid expansion recipients to pay monthly premiums. The premiums would start at 2% of their household income and increase the longer a person remains on the program. People who don't pay would have charges assessed against their income tax. And if they're above the federal poverty line, they could be disenrolled if they don't pay within 90 days. Federal and state laws each lay out categories of people who should be exempt from these requirements, and the waiver seeks to get those into alignment. Under the federal law, groups Groups including pregnant women, American Indians, people with children 13 or younger, and those with specific disabilities will be exempt from community engagement requirements and from premium increases. The state also wants to offer short-term exemptions to groups like people experiencing homelessness and domestic violence victims. DPHHS says if the waiver is approved, they'll implement the new requirements as soon as practicable. DPHHS will be holding public meetings on the waiver proposal next week, including one here in Helena on Thursday, July 31st, and a virtual meeting on Friday, August 1st. If you'd like to participate, you can find out how by going to our website. In Helena, Jonathan Amberian, MTN News.